In this knife talk video, I'm going to be talking about gifted knives and gifting knives in general. I have here a bunch of knives that have been gifted to me. These aren't all of the knives that have been gifted to me, but it's a lot of them, most of them, and I've won some in giveaways. I'm not including those here or really in this discussion. But first off, I thought I'd talk about these knives and then talk about what my thoughts are on giving knives to people and receiving knives. So first off here, this is a Queen utility trapper, D2 steel, and I believe zebra wood. Really nice knife, kind of thickly ground, but it's one that I've used a lot. This is one that I got from my dad, and I got this at the same time, this knife, which is a Gradation Cutlery Northfield number 65, Ben Hogan in black gold acrylic. So really cool knife, one that I've also had for a long time and used quite a bit. I got these, actually I probably got these after this one. I'll move this over. This is in chronological order of when I got these. I got these in 2012 or 13. When was this made? Yeah, I think 2013. But both really nice knives, both from when I was really first starting to get into traditional knives, both from Titusville, Pennsylvania, near where my dad lives, and just really, really nice knives. So my dad gave me these knives as a Christmas gift, I believe. Kind of taking a step back here, this is a Spyderco Native 5 lightweight, not lightweight, Native 5 fluted titanium. This is a knife that was given to me by my second eldest brother, and he also has one of these and carries it or a knife that I gave him as a thank you most days, I believe. I think pretty much as his EDCs. This is a really, really nice knife. It has this beautiful, beautiful fluted titanium handles, pure metal. There's nothing plastic on this knife, nothing other than metal even, which is kind of cool and unique. And this is another knife that I've had for a long time. This was given to me for sure in the Christmas of, oh wow, I graduated it must be 2011. So this is an older knife. This is a knife that really I was 2011 or 2012, but I think it was 2011. This is a knife that I got when I didn't have too many knives, when I was really finishing high school or just out of high school, and so I was starting to be able to carry knives more often on a daily basis, in the summer and in college. And also I started, or I had some money from working in the summer so I could get knives for myself. But this was an unexpected gift from my brother, and really, really nice one. It's a knife that I still really, really enjoy. Holding it now, I might even carry it tomorrow. But just a beautiful knife, really, really great EDC, feels good in the hand like this. You can choke up really easily. Just a really classic knife, S35 VN steel. And this is a knife that, again, like I said, was a really unexpected gift. So I did kind of repay the gift. I'll talk about that later. This is a Spyderco Rhodey. So this is the knife that Spyderco designed when the TSA said it was going to start allowing knives with certain characteristics back onto flights. The TSA went back on that. I have real strong feelings about the TSA and lots of things related to that that I won't get into too much here, but I wasn't surprised that they went back on what they said they were going to do. Actually, I think the National Airline Association said that they were going to allow knives, and then the TSA said that that wasn't okay. So, but Spyderco still made the Rhodey. This is a knife that was a gift from my fiance at the time, my girlfriend, and it's a nice little knife. I was, and still am probably, more into traditional slip joint knives when she gave this to me. And it's a kind of a nice, it was one of the first actually. Spyderco really started making the modern traditionals, or what they call slippets, before they were popular. So now everybody's making them. Benchmade has the proper, and Hinder has the, I think that they just call it slippy. And you know, everybody's making modern slip joints. We Knives just came out with one. So it's kind of the cool trendy thing right now for modern knife companies to come out with slip joints, non-locking knives. But Spyderco's been doing it for a long time. They have their line of knives called the Slippets, and they're kind of an updated slip joint. There's a little notch, so you can see that, so that it does sit down into the tang, unlike a slip joint, where a traditional slip joint, where it's really just a flat face that the spring goes onto. So it kind of a little bit easier than on a slipet can come off of there. This allows it to kind of sit down in there. You hear that, let's see if it'll focus, that snap. So it really does kind of sit down in a little bit better. This also has a half stop and then closes. You open it with this little divot. And again, this is an early modern slip joint. N690 cobalt steel, nice steel, pretty stainless, and red handles. Just generally a nice little knife that's really easy to carry and also legal pretty much everywhere. So, you know, this one was a gift from my then girlfriend. This one was a gift from her also. This is the Spyderco Ouroboros. So this is a Paul Alexander design, his first design for Spyderco. That he also did the sliver axe and is doing the Parada, but apparently before the Parada, Spyderco's coming out with a knife called the Ikuchi, I think. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it, but another Paul Alexander design. Really, really cool knife. This is one that I wanted for a long time, but didn't want to buy. It was a little expensive. And she got it for me for my birthday, I think. And I was really surprised because it is an expensive knife. She's not into knives, but she's extremely supportive of my interest in knives. And so I was really, really happy with this. Interesting knife, like I say, feels really good in the hand here, more than you would expect with this big hump. And then you can also choke up really well. Nice kind of continuous belly on that blade. So I really want to use this as a skinning knife. I haven't shot anything or you know, harvested any animals since I have had it when I had it with me. So unfortunately I haven't, but this is a Japanese made Spyderco, and it does have the VG10 steel. Nice steel. One big complaint that some people had with this knife is that it has Teflon or nylon washers. I do think that for the price that these were being sold for, that it probably should have phosphor bronze washers and maybe even a different steel, but I'm really, really happy with it, and it is actually probably the smoothest knife I have. So those nylon washers haven't hurt it at all. I have not adjusted this knife at all, zero adjustment, and it has no blade play at all in any direction. Super easy to super smooth opening and closing. It kind of drifts between here and perfectly centered, but it never gets to the point where it's touching a liner. And so I've just been really happy with this knife, and you know, it's discontinued, so it's being sold for cheaper now, and I think a pretty good price. So if you're interested in the Spyderco Ouroboros, jump on one now because it is discontinued. So another gift from my fiance. This one is a gift from my eldest brother. He gave this to me. I actually gave this to me recently, and partly because we're both fans of an author, Cormac McCarthy. There are some scenes in his Borders trilogy where these Italian-style stilettos are used. So he got one for himself and gave one to me. It's a really, really cool knife. You can see that it has a full dagger grind, has swing guard, which I really, really like swing guards. This one is made by Frank B. of Italy. It is Italian made. Don't know too much about Frank B, but it is basically a back lock. So you can see that that drops the blade. This one has a really, really strong spring, so you really have to push it down, and then you fire it by pushing the button. Really cool knife, really traditional, you know, Italian style stiletto. So really cool one that I'm happy to have gotten, and again was a gift from my brother. So really cool knife, and one that I don't get to carry because of idiotic laws. It's illegal to carry automatics and where I'm at, although lots of people do. I know people who carry automatics and they don't seem to worry about it, but I don't carry them. But it's one that it's really nice to have in my collection. And then finally is another knife. This was a gift from my youngest brother, who's older than me, and he actually was kind of repping steel will for a while. He no longer is. But this is the steel will Gecko 1503. Again, N690 cobalt steel. These knives are both made in Italy. That's the steel that they use a lot there. And Italy makes some nice knives. This knife is really well made. No blade play. Really easy to open despite the volcano style thumb studs that sometimes people don't like. Really, really nice traditional drop point blade. You can see it's kind of dirty. I probably should have cleaned it, but didn't realize I hadn't cleaned it after I used it last. This has a back lock, and it's a really well done back lock. There's really no blade play, and it you know, solid in every direction, easy to open and close. I close it like that, one-handed here, and just push that down. Pocket clip's okay, has a lanyard hole, kind of a little bit of a impact tool there, but a big beefy knife, nice molding on the handles, and again a gift from my brother who was repping steel will. So to talk about that, one thing you'll probably have noticed is that my family gives knives as gifts. So one thing I wanted to talk about here in general about gifting knives is that there are a lot of traditions and even superstitions around knives in general, and that's really because knives are a part of every culture. There's no culture, at least no traditional culture, where knives aren't a major part of it, because knives are the essential, the quintessential, and really original human tool. Before people were writing, they were using knives. So it doesn't get more essential of a human tool than the knife. So all throughout history, for hundreds of thousands of years, people have been using things like this. Certainly they didn't look like this for most of that time, but things similar to this that perform the same function. So knives are featured in all kinds of literature, ancient literature, historical literature, oral histories. They're just a part of every culture. And so there's all kinds of different beliefs and again, superstitions around them. One of the most prevalent that you hear a lot, especially online on the forums, and I've even heard it in person, is that you shouldn't give a knife to a friend unless they pay for it. So you shouldn't gift a knife to a friend, or kind of to take the superstition further, some people also say that the reason for that is because it will sever the friendship or sever the relationship. You can see that I don't believe in that. And kind of the way that people make up for that is that they always give with a knife a coin. For example, they'll give a knife to a friend, but give that friend a coin with the knife. And the assumption is that the friend will then give the coin back to the person who gave the friend the knife. So it's a little confusing when explained in that way, but basically it's so that the person receiving the knife pays for the knife, despite the fact that they were also given the payment for the knife. So it's definitely a superstition. It's not a practical idea because the person who pays for the knife was given the payment also. But it's something that a lot of people believe and a lot of people practice. And anything that's believed and practiced, I think, has merit. So I'm definitely not discounting that belief or superstition, and I don't use the word superstition in a negative way. In fact, I really like learning about different cultures, superstitions, and beliefs and practices, and I think that they're really interesting and have a power of their own and merit. But it's not my belief, and it's not my family, or to put it out further, my culture's belief. I don't know, if historically my culture, in the ethnic sense, believes in it, but I don't believe so, and I don't really subscribe to that. Me and my family have our own, way of doing things that isn't directly tied to like our ethnic heritage, like most people in America. We just have our own personal and family way of being social and doing things rather than adhering to a strict historical heritage. So in my family, as you can see, we give knives. Now, my dad, actually how I got into knives is that my dad gives away knives like candy. I mean, literally. When I was growing up, I remember he would have like several, like 5+ Victorinox classics, the tiny little Victorinoxes. I have a bunch of them still, that he would have in their boxes or in their clamshell packaging, and he would give those away to clients, business clients, to friends, on birthdays. He would give them away all the time. And so he had no qualms with giving away knives and really not most often not expecting anything in return. Now, of course, with a business client, sometimes you give a gift, and there's a very intricate play of expectations. But you know about that if you've given gifts and things in those situations. But almost always, he gave knives as gifts and continues to give knives as gifts, without any expectation of return or payment. And he recently gave me some kitchen knives, and previously has given me some kitchen knives. So that's something that I grew up with. My dad giving people knives as gifts. Never ever did I see him give a coin along with it. I've actually talked to him about it, and he doesn't recall his family doing that, his dad or grandparents. So it's just not something that he grew up with, and therefore not something I grew up with. And you can see that continued to my brothers. So my eldest brother has given me a couple of knives as gifts, actually quite a few, some really, really nice knives, and I have had some of them on my channel, and I always thank him, but I do want to thank him again. He's given me some extremely, extremely nice knives as gifts, and he in fact has sometimes explicitly told me that I didn't need to keep them, and that I could trade or sell them if I didn't like them. And I've expressed my uncomfortability with that, and he's assured me that he was okay with it in some circumstances. Now this knife I would never give away or sell or trade away, because he got it specifically for a reason to give to me. Some of the knives he's given me were just that he didn't like them anymore, basically. So that brings me to one thing that I do, one tradition or superstition that I do adhere to, and that's that giving away or selling, specifically selling and also trading away knives that were gifts, is not the right thing to do. Certainly these, which were gifts from my fiance, will always be in my collection, passed down and stuff. But also gifts from my brothers, I would never give away or sell or trade away these knives. And it's just, if someone gives you something, I don't necessarily know that I can explain why, but it seems like you shouldn't give it away. You should keep it and cherish it, even if it's not something that you would normally enjoy, within your tastes or your aesthetic preferences. Now, the thing with these knives that I've been gifted that I have here, they all do fit my aesthetic preferences. But even if they didn't, I would keep them because they were gifts from family, and gifted knives hold a special importance. So that is one thing that I kind of think of gifted knives, that I wouldn't give them, that I wouldn't sell them or trade them. Now, some giveaway knives, knives that I've won from people who I don't know, I will re-give them away. So I won a knife from Nick Maffei, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce his last name, on Instagram, and I'm actually giving it away on Instagram now. The reason for that is because I got the knife, I thought that I would like it, and I ended up, it just wasn't for me, it didn't fit my hand right, but I think other people do like the knife. So actually in that situation, I think it would be more greedy or almost not right for me to keep something that I'm not enjoying when someone else could enjoy it. So in the case of won knives or knives received through a giveaway, I do think that it's acceptable to give them away to someone else, and especially so in the case where you don't or are no longer enjoying that knife. Because if you don't enjoy something and someone else could enjoy it, it's better to pass it along and allow them to enjoy it. So that's kind of an exception to that, right? And it's different with a knife that you've won in a giveaway versus a knife that was gifted specifically to you. And that brings me to this knife. When my brother gave me this knife, it was a really big surprise. Again, this was a gift from my second eldest brother. He enjoys Spyderco's. I sharpen his knives when I see him and things. And it was a big surprise because this was not an inexpensive knife. This one's also discontinued and they mostly are gone, but if you can find one, they were selling for like extremely good prices. I would highly suggest getting them at the discounted discontinued price that they were selling at. But when my brother got me this knife, I decided to get him a knife to thank him, and I would say that that's something that I would do in other cases also. And I don't know that it's necessarily 100% tied to the price of the knife or the cost of the knife, but definitely that plays a factor, and also the unexpectedness and the reason for the gift. So this was just a Christmas gift, and I hadn't gotten him a Christmas gift that year, I don't think. I think that I didn't even know that I was going to be seeing him for Christmas. So it was kind of unexpected, and because of all that, because it was an expensive knife and because it was unexpected and all of that, I decided to get him a knife to thank him. So there are cases where it feels more correct, more right to give someone a gift as a thank you for giving a knife. But I would never expect that from someone. So if I give someone a knife, which I often do, I don't ever expect anything in return. So I got my brother who gave me this a titanium handled Spyderco UKPK, United Kingdom pen knife, and that's a really nice knife. Also discontinued, can't really find them as easily anymore, but it's one that he carried a lot, and to me it's more than worth the price that I paid for that knife when I go and see him, and when I get there he has that knife in his pocket. And I think that he enjoys when he comes and visits me and I have this knife in my pocket. So I think it's worth gifting people knives sometimes in thanks for a gifted knife, and sometimes it's worth it just to do it. And with that in mind brings me to kind of my last point, is that I give away knives pretty often. Sometimes my fiance thinks too often, but I enjoy it. When I give away a knife, and let's see, I wanted to focus on these. But when I give away a knife and I see that the person uses it, it's worth it for me. Now, I don't really give away ultra expensive knives unless I know the person is into knives, like my brothers. I've given my oldest brother some nice knives also. Great Eastern Cutlery, Purple Bone 72, which is a really nice knife, and I gave it to him when I got my purple belt from him. So that was a special knife to gift him for a special occasion, and it was related to it, and I really enjoy that he likes that knife. I've given my youngest older brother knives also, and help him sharpening his knives and things like that for his hunting business. So I love giving people knives, and I especially love it when they use them. I give people at work knives and things like that, and I never expect anything in return, especially a coin. That said, I have had people who that is part of their tradition, you know, do that with me. So I gave a person whom I know through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a knife, and you know, it was an inexpensive knife. I certainly didn't expect anything in return, and I did it because I forget why actually, but they gave me a coin in return, and I keep that coin because even though it's not a part of my tradition, if it's a part of that person's tradition enough that they decide to honor it and give me a coin in exchange for the knife, then I want to honor their tradition. So I keep that coin specifically in my knife box, and it's, you know, something that I'll keep as long as I have the knife box, I suppose. So I think it's one of those things where you have to in a hobby especially, you have to do things the way that seems right to you, and sometimes that means doing things your way or the traditional way for you, and sometimes that means honoring other people's traditions. And so this is a topic that has been coming up a lot recently with the holidays, especially on forums and on Facebook and stuff. So I thought I'd do a video on it. It's turned into a really long video with a lot of talking, but also some knives, so at least you got to see some knives. But I'd be really, really interested to hear your thoughts on this. What are your traditions? Do you have any traditions that I haven't heard of? I really love to hear about those kinds of things. So if you have any unusual or different traditions, please leave comments below with any questions or, you know, any comments, and I'll be happy to read them, and I try to reply to all of them. If you've enjoyed this video, if you've watched this 27 minutes of me talking about gifting knives, please like the video and subscribe to my channel so that you can get updates when I post other videos. And don't forget to check out all of my other videos that I have already posted if you haven't. I've got a whole lot of videos. I've got videos on all of these knives plus a lot of other knives. So check those out, and don't forget to go out and do good.